Good morning. Happy the day after the Super Bowl. The time for convening has arrived and the Senate will now come to order. At this time, I'd like to ask that all unauthorized persons exit the chamber. I'd like to recognize the senator from the 53rd on this bright, sunshiny Monday morning.
Mr. President, it's Sick Monday after Super Bowl day today, and you can tell by the absence of people driving on our roads in Atlanta. In 1842, today, Sidney Lanier was born in Macon, Georgia, a famous Georgian. And the senator from the 7th today, his favorite character on Sesame Street, Elmo's birthday is today. Also, it is doggy date night, and I think the senator from the 51st told me that. It's a beautiful day, and our journal's been read and found to be correct, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Great job again. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? The chair hears none, and the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who've got bills or resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. Mr. Secretary, first reading of Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Bill 288 by Senator Anderson of 43rd and others, a bill to be titled an act to amend Code Section 35-337, the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to the review of individuals' criminal history record information, definitions, privacy considerations, written
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 342 by Senator Jones of 25th and others, a bill to be titled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 3 and Article 1 of Chapter 4 of Title 25, the OCGA, relating to minimum requirements for local fire departments and general provisions relative
Public safety.
Senate Bill 343 by Senator Jackson of the 2nd and others, a bill to be titled an act to amend Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to education so as to raise the age of mandatory education for children.
Education and youth.
Senate Bill 344 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be titled an act to amend Code Section 241360 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to order requiring prisoners' delivery to serve as witness or criminal defendant generally, expenses, and prisoner under
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 345 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others, a bill to be titled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 26 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to standards, labeling, and adulteration of food so as to provide for nonprofit
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 346 by Senator Black of the 8th and others, a bill to be titled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 50, Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to the State Board of Veterinary Medicine so as to increase the membership of the State
Agriculture.
Board. Senate Bill 347 by Senator Butler of the 55th and others, a bill to be titled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to regulation and construction of hospitals and other health care facilities so as to require hospitals.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 348 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others, a bill to be titled an amend Title 33 of Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to insurance so as to provide for certain insurer requirements concerning provider network classification to require
Insurance and labor.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, will you read bills and resolutions for the second time?
Senate Bill 289 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd, ad valorem taxation of property, mobile homes procure permits and procure display decals, remove the requirement. Senate Bill 317 by Senator Ligon of the 3rd and others, county police, method for the abolition of a county police department and returning the law enforcement functions of such department to the sheriff of county provide. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. It is now time for our morning roll call. It is now time for morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Chair recognizes the governor's floor leader from the 19th Senate District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate excuse the senator from the 17th.
Without objection, the senator from the 17th is excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move that the Senate excuse the senator from the 5th for business inside of the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 5th is excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 28th.
Mr. President, I move for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 27th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 27th is excused. Chair recognizes the senator from the 43rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 39th.
Without objection, the senator from the 39th is excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 34th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from 36, business outside the...
Without objection, the senator from the 36th is excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 25th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 7th and the 24th.
Without objection, the senators from the 7th and the 24th are excused. Are there any additional motions to excuse? Secretary will call the roll. The senators signify your presence by voting the yea switch. The secretary will unlock the machine. All right, it's now time for our morning devotional. And I'd like to ask that all senators take your seats and cease all audible conversations. And I'd like to ask our doorkeepers to secure the chamber at this time. It's my honor to recognize a senator from the 34th to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance today and to introduce our chaplain of the day.
Would you join me in the pledge to the United States? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag, the principles which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Members of the Senate, I am so excited to be able to introduce to you Reverend Jeffrey Scott Copeland is the pastor of Prosperous Missionary Baptist Church located in Lafayette, Georgia. Born and educated in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Reverend Copeland served in the United States Army for 4 years, and after being discharged, he earned an Associate's in Science degree from the Retz Electronic Institute in Louisville, Kentucky. Reverend Copeland later on his earned and Bachelor's of Science degree in Christian ministry with honors at Point University in Atlanta, Georgia. Reverend Copeland is a full-time staff member at Antioch Baptist Church North, where he provides consistent leadership and serves as the minister of the day. Reverend Copeland served as president of Antioch Ministerial Alliance and ministry leader for Antioch Care and Comfort Ministry, where he, along with other volunteers, provide comfort for the sick and the bereaved by prayer, visits, and sharing God's eternal promise. Reverend Copeland is the husband of Larissa Copeland and the father of Jeffrey Noah Copeland. As a believer, Reverend Copeland believes vehemently that anyone can be changed by the power of God. Reverend Copeland is a witness that through a right fellowship with Jesus Christ, any man can be set free to become all of God wanted him to be. That's John 8:36. It states, "If the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed." Reverend Copeland is the pastor of Prospect Missionary Baptist Church. Okay, I had two of the same thing. I will present to you Reverend Copeland.
Thank you to Senator Valencia C. For that introduction and for this invitation, and to Lieutenant Governor Duncan and to the members of this great house, and to all of my brothers and sisters. It is a joy to be here, and I greet you again on behalf of the Prospect Baptist Church in the Queen City of the Highlands in Lafayette, Georgia. I think Senator Mullis that's his area. I'm not sure if he's here today, but glad to have my wife of 17 years here with me as well. We celebrated in this lovely love month of February. The book of Joshua, chapter 1, the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 1, we find these words. "Now after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spake unto Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise and go over this Jordan, thou and all this people, unto the land which I do give to them, even to the children of Israel. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou mayest prosper whithersoever thou goest. And this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success." I have read for you the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verses 1, 2, 7, and 8. And in your time, I pray that you will get an opportunity to read the entire book. We read here, and we're reminded that all through the Bible, God has used ordinary men and women to do great things in this world, and particularly in leadership, to assist and to guide those persons who can't help themselves and to reach God's purpose in their life. God used Moses to lead the people to the promised land. But he never made it because he got angry at the people that he was supposed to be helping and was disqualified. The people murmured because they were thirsty and they had a need for water. And Moses, out of his anger, disobeyed God's command. And in the book of Numbers, chapter 20, verse 12, we find that God told Moses, because you believe me not to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. This was a great loss to the nation of Israel. And it's always a great loss when we lose leaders, because they mean so much to us as people. So many people depend on us, and Moses had led them for many years, and he interceded on behalf of the Lord, and he was God's mouthpiece. Yet in our text, he is no longer alive. But Joshua had sat under his leadership, and it's always good to have somebody that you can train for leadership. Joshua, the Lord calls Joshua to step up into position to take on the heavy mantle of leadership. His task was to bring the nation into the land that God had promised them. The older generation had died because of rebellion, but now a new generation has been raised up, and the only thing that separated them from the promised land was the Jordan River. And from the Jordan River, Joshua could see the land flowing with milk and honey. But he could also see the challenges that they faced. He could also see the tall walls of Jericho and the giants that they faced. But in addition to that, he could also see a new generation that he had to lead. And I can imagine at that point, Lieutenant Duncan, he felt the weight of leadership. And there is a heavy weight to the call to leadership. But it was now Joshua's turn. And I know many of us here in this house have been in leadership for some time now, but as we step into this new year, we'll face many new challenges. We also face a new generation. And so with the last minute or two, I want to encourage you as senators and representatives to go forward. The first thing the Lord tells Joshua is Moses is dead. But he reminds him that death is real. We're not here for eternity. We're not here in this ride for eternity. So we have to do all that we can while we have time. But God was reminding Moses, don't worry about, he was reminding Joshua, don't worry about Moses, because although Moses is dead, I'm still alive. I'm still God. And that's the beautiful thing about God. God never gets sick. He never gets old. He's never running for election, but he's still sovereign. And what I want you to do, he talks to Joshua and he says, what I want you to do is to arise and go forward. Notice now, when the Lord gives him this command, when you look at the text, the Lord does not discuss with Moses strategic battle plans, such as how many men to take, where do we attack, do we have the financial budget? But God tells Joshua, only be strong and courageous. And the Lord was not concerned about the people and Joshua being killed by the enemy, because God was their protector. But God's concern was that they be not conformed, but to maintain a standard that God had set. And we have a responsibility in leadership to maintain a standard as believers in Christ. No matter where you are, you have to stand. And after you've done all, to stand. He says that thou may observe to do all according to all the law. And thank God for the law. What would this country be like if we had no law? In other words, God was encouraging him to maintain a standard, to maintain a high standard, to walk worthy of your vocation. Don't become contaminated with the ways of the world. As Paul reminded us, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so as I hurry to my conclusion, so I want to say to you, my brothers and sisters, God charged Joshua, and he charges us this morning to be steadfast, to be unmovable in your stand, in your position. Be of good courage. Be not afraid. Be thou not dismayed. He said, turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, but be steadfast. He says, as I was with Moses, I will be with you. And how was he with Moses? He was with Moses at the Red Sea. He was with Moses in the wilderness when he fed them when they were hungry. They didn't have a budget, but God provided. The creator and sustainer of the earth, the mountain scooper, the same God. He was with the ones who wrote One Nation Under God is with you. So we got to keep serving this great state because you have a charge to keep and a God to glorify. And I'll close with this simple story. The story is told about a a great commander in a military battle, was caught in a great military struggle. And the great commander, they were losing the battle. And the commander became discouraged. And he called for the bugler to come and blow the trumpet for a retreat. And when he called for the young man to come, he told him, he said, "Young man, we're losing this battle, so I want you to blow the trumpet for a retreat." And the young man looked at the commander, Lieutenant, and he said, "Commander, you've never taught us to blow the trumpet for a retreat. But all you've taught us is how to blow the trumpet to charge. And I've charged you this morning to this house to go forward, not backwards, but to go forward." Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, our Creator and our Sustainer of this universe, how excellent is thy name, for there is none like you. And we give you praise today, Lord, recognizing that without you we can do nothing. We ask you that you will keep us, and we pray for this great state of Georgia, and we pray for this great nation. We pray for this world, and we pray for all of the government leaders, and we pray for this house, that you will preside in this place. And Lord, that you will keep Lieutenant strong, and that you will be with him, that you will give him boldness and give him faith, and bless each senator and representative and all of the staff here. Give them wisdom and help them to make the decisions for this state. Bless their homes, protect their families, keep them in your care. In Jesus' name, all of God's people said, amen.
Are there any unanimous consents? Chair sees none. We've got some special guests with us today that we certainly would like to recognize. Mr. Secretary, will you read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 660 by Senator Tippins of the 37th, a resolution recognizing and commending Heather Williamson and for other purposes. Whereas Heather Williamson is the state recipient of the Technical College System of Georgia's 2019 Georgia Occupational Award of Leadership, which is the first program of its type in the nation to honor outstanding technical college students. Senate Resolution 661 by Senator Tippins of the 37th, a resolution recognizing and commending Simone Crane and for other purposes. Whereas Simone Crane is the state recipient of the Technical College System of Georgia's 2019 Exceptional Adult Georgian Literacy Education Award, which recognizes adult learners in pursuit of excellence. Senate Resolution 662 by Senator Tippins of the 37th, a resolution recognizing and commending Lena Argueta for other purposes. Whereas Lena Argueta has been selected as the state recipient of the Technical College System of Georgia's 2019 Rick Perkins Award for Excellence in Technical Instruction. And now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend Lena Argueta, Heather Williamson, and Simone Crane for their outstanding achievements and efforts to promote technical and adult education in Georgia. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. I'd like to call upon the senator from the 37th to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. We have 4 special guests with us this morning from the Technical College System of Georgia. In each case, these individuals have earned the distinction of being the best in the state of Georgia in their respective categories. First, I would like to recognize Commissioner of the Technical College System of Georgia, Mr. Greg Dozier. Thank you, sir. There you are. All right. Now I'll tell you about the other 3 high performers that are here with us today. First, I'd like to recognize Mr. Lena Argueta. He is an instructor at Georgia Northwestern Technical College where he teaches management and supervisory development. He was the recipient of the 2019 Rick Perkins Award given to the top instructor in the Technical College System of Georgia. Secondly, I would like to recognize Ms. Simone Crane from West Georgia Technical College. Ms. Crane distinguished herself among her peers and was selected as the 2019 Eagle Award winner. The Eagle Award stands for Exceptional Adult Georgian and Literacy Education and is awarded to the Adult Education Student of the Year. Lastly, but not least, I would like to welcome Heather Williamson from Central Georgia Technical College. Ms. Williamson is a graduate of Central Georgia Technical College in Warner Robins and is the 2019 State Gold winner. And GOLD stands for the Georgia Occupational Award for Leadership. The award is the highest honor a technical education student can receive. After she received an associate degree in early childhood care and education, she became a paraprofessional in an elementary school classroom in Houston County, the Houston County school system. Please join me in giving these outstanding individuals a warm Senate welcome. It's my pleasure to give each of them now a copy of the resolution that we have passed.
First of all, Mr. President and members of the Senate, I would like to say it is an honor to be here this morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I was a drug addict for 37 years. I graduated with my GED and Douglas County Drug Court program, both in February of 2018, and I am officially in college for psychology. I want to come back and give back and be a drug and alcohol counselor. So thank y'all very much. Thank you.
Good morning. Mr. Lieutenant Governor, President, members of the Senate, it's an honor to be here today. Thank you for making the choice to fund technical education in our wonderful Peach State. I will forever be thankful that the Technical College System of Georgia made my dreams come true when I earned my early childhood education degree. I was fortunate enough to graduate debt-free thanks to the amazing scholarships I received while in college. I am now working in a local elementary school kindergarten classroom and will be pursuing further degrees in my education soon. Thank you for believing in people like myself and creating a way for us to create a better life for ourselves and our families.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it. My name is Lena Argueta. I work for Georgia Northwestern Technical College, and I have the opportunity to have a dream job. A dream job because on July 15, 2019, I laid an exam table and I had died. Having come back to life, I quickly realized that there was more to life than simply going on with our normal routines. At Georgia Northwestern, I get the opportunity to impact lives every day. I get to change lives every day, and I get to see these people graduate and become professionals in our community. I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I want to thank you for the resolution. Have a wonderful day.
Mr. Secretary, we have additional special guests that we want to recognize. Will you please read the resolution?
Senate Resolution 686 by Senator Rahman of the 5th. A resolution commending the special friendship between Georgia and the people of China and recognizing February 3rd, 2020 as China Day at the state capitol and for other purposes. Whereas there's a bond of friendship between the citizens of Georgia and China, and the people of Georgia welcome opportunities to grow our already deep relationship at all levels, including cultural, academic, and business. And whereas the year 2020 ushers in Lunar New Year 4718, the year of the rat, and begins a new 12-year cycle in the traditional Chinese calendar. And now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize the Consul General Kai Wei of the Consulate General of China in Houston and recognize February 3rd, 2020 as China Day at the state capitol. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I'd like to call upon the senator from the 5th to introduce our special guest today.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, fellow senators. We have over 150,000 Chinese Americans living in Georgia. As we celebrate the Lunar New Year 4718, the year of the rat in Georgia and around the world, happy Lunar New Year to fellow Chinese American of Georgia. Today we celebrate China Day at the Capitol. I'm honored to introduce to you the new Consul General of China and some of the Chinese American leaders of Georgia. Of course, I have my fellow senators with me. I want to name all of them. Ms. Zara Karansha, she co-sponsored the resolution with me. And we also have Ms. Lenny Wong, who is the chairwoman of the National Association of Chinese American, NACA. We have Christina Liu, president of the NACA. We also have Maggie Myers, who is the vice president of the NACA. We also have Consul Wei. If anyone part of the NACA is at the gallery, please stand so we can acknowledge you. Thank you. And finally, it's my honor and privilege to welcome the new Consul General Kai Wei of Houston to the Georgia State Senate. The Honorable Consul General is a career diplomat, has a degree in Masters of Law. Since joining Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 1997, he has been assigned to several diplomatic assignments throughout North America, Latin America, Caribbean Affairs, and Australia. Recently, in 2019, he was appointed to Consul General of China in Houston. His territory includes most of the southern part of the United States, including the great state of Georgia. Since Georgia ranked the #1 state to do business in the United States, and if I'm correct, that we are the third largest trading partner of China, and with the recent new trade deal and also with the deepening of the Savannah Harbor, we should be able to export a whole lot more of our Georgia agricultural products. I can see a very good reason why we should have a consulate of China in Georgia in the near future. Fellow Senator, please give Honorable Consul General Kawi a warm Georgia welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, and President, and also my colleagues, a new friend from the Senate, and especially, and I want to thank you and Lanning and from NACA, and it's so great honor to be here and to present with you, and also to accept the China Day for that one. And this is the Chinese New Year's holiday, so and I would like to take this time to say Happy Chinese Lunar New Year to you, and for all of you, and also for the people and from China, from the bottom half of China, to all of the people in Atlanta and in Georgia. So this Spring Festival is not quite usual ones, and as you may know, and we have combated the coronavirus in China. So and the good thing and the very good news I got is we are making progress in China. So within 4 days, we have just established a new hospital can accommodate more than 1,000 patients. And in the coming days, we will have more and more hospitals set up. And also, and we have cured and released more people from the hospital than the death toll. So that's an encouraging sign. And so from our point, we will try our best to combat the virus. And we hope that we have the confidence under the leadership of President Xi Jinping and also the Communist Party of China. We will come back and will win that combat. Also, and we do this not only for China, but also for the whole world, because we know and we are in the global village. So and no countries can be quarantined from that virus. So we make very close cooperation with Americans and with other countries and with WHO. So I would like to take this time and to thank you for the international support and also including international support to China and cooperation we get from states, from the United States, from other countries. So as I just mentioned, we are in the global villages. So we just passed 40 years of the diplomatic ties between China and the United States. So, and although we have twisted or ups and downs, especially for the past couple of years, but we think that the bilaterals have moved forward in general sense. For example, we just concluded the first free trade negotiations, and so this is a good sign and it gives good predictions of the environment. It is especially very meaningful and significant to the state of Georgia. We know that Georgia is the very first state our previous leader Deng Xiaoping visited during its 1979 historic visit to the United States. And also, Georgia is very famous for pecan, for peanut, and also for peach. So we want to buy more, and instead, not just only the 3 Ps, but we want more. And we also know, and Georgia has been famous for the best state for business for the 6 years in a row. So saying that, we just report to you, and in the middle income class in China nowadays is more than the total population of the United States population. So we hope and we want more Georgia's business to go to China. We want to buy more peas and more peanut and also a lot of new things. So saying that, and yesterday, and on my way here, I just make a very brief stop at the Atlanta International Airport, and I was told there are some quarantine measures was taken, but the people they assure me that there will be no discrimination against the Chinese, and so I asked why, because they said we are friends. So I was quite touched by these very simple words. We are friends. So, and finally, and let me congratulate again, and also and thank you for the resolutions. I brought some of the panda with me, and with a symbol of Spring Festival. So I just want to leave it to the House, to the Senate, and if the President can allow me to do this. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, let's continue to move on. Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th in a quiet post-Super Bowl session day.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I just rise to welcome the Clayton Chamber of Commerce today. I'm not sure if they're up here in the gallery, but on behalf of the senator from the 34th and myself, we welcome you to the Georgia State Senate today. We understand that you are the business engine of the county, and you work well with the corporate entities and also small business owners, work to provide jobs and help our economy be a booming economy. So we welcome you today to the Georgia State Senate. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I yield the well.
All right, we're going to continue to move on here. You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Chair sees none. Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? Chair hears none. All right, we're going to move on to the rules calendar. Will the secretary read the caption to Senate Bill 296?
Senate Bill number 296, a bill to be titled an act to amend Chapter 18 of Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to funeral directors and establishments, embalmers, and crematories so as to remove certain crematory requirements as to retorts and to provide for an alternative cremation process, to provide for and change a definition, to provide for conforming amendments, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President. Excuse me. Mr. President, on January 28th, 2020, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted by Senator Kauser, Chair. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair would like to recognize the senator from the 31st to speak to Senate Bill 296.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, members of the Senate, it's interesting. It's quiet in here. It's like a funeral home. So I bring to you Senate Bill 296, which actually seeks to correct an error, what I believe to be an error that was made back in 2012. House Bill 933 passed in 2012, was signed by the governor on May the 1st of 2012. That bill passed unanimously in the state house and received a vote of 51-2 in the state senate. And what that bill did was, in Title 10, it said that you could do cremation. It referred to it, you could use a chemical or other professionally accepted means to do cremation. Many people thought that that allowed for alkaline hydrolysis. But I actually have a constituent that went and bought the equipment to do this process, and after getting it installed and going before the Funeral Service Board to get the license to operate the crematory, it was pointed out that due to the way the law was written, you had to have a retort, which is the cremation by fire device. And so all this bill seeks to do is to allow what we thought we did in 2012, and that is to use the process called alkaline hydrolysis to carry out cremation of deceased bodies. That is currently used in research facilities. It's being done in a number of states. I don't know the exact number at this point, but it has been an accepted process, and this just clears up our code. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the minority leader to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. Interesting bill this morning. I'm having two amendments drawn, and I'm going to talk mainly about those, get that over with. First of all, we had a study committee a few years ago on crematory. We talked about crematory. You know, if you look at the regular definition of crematory, it talks about burning with fire. But if you look at the mortuary association, it mentions by mechanical means. So both of these methods, both the fire retort type of cremation or this dissolving or breaking down of the body through chemical and water processes, have been termed cremation. Of course, when we change this law, they will both be approved. Those are only two I could find, but we would be taking out the furnace, so any other type of cremation would then be acceptable for the board to consider. A couple things. You know, I have some concerns about nitrogen level and pH, but I also have concerns about fire cremation with mercury. The most important thing I think we need to consider is that we protect the public. And under cremation, the statute now, we require any freestanding crematory to be 1,000 feet from residential neighborhoods. But when the law was written, there's some confusion in legislative council on what would be appropriate, but it is believed by my attorney that the way the law is written, that if you have a crematory that's put into a funeral home, it can be closer to 1,000 feet to the neighborhood. Why is this a problem? Well, if a crematory produces some ash and soot, and it does, usually you can't see it as it goes out, but it does, that can be a problem. In the study committee, we heard testimony that mercury from fillings and heavy metals can be burnt up in the cremation process, not the alkaline hydrolysis process, but the burning process, and be generated and emitted in the air. So we passed a law saying if you do a freestanding crematory, it should be 1,000 feet from the public. My amendment, and I don't know at this time whether it's one or two, they're preparing it, will simply state that all crematory, whether in a funeral home or not, need to be 1,000 feet from residential areas. That will apply to both alkaline hydrolysis and furnace crematory. So I think that would be something each and every one of your constituents would like, considering the property values get negatively impacted by several studies if they're close to a furnace crematory. Number two, I have an amendment that would simply allow your counties to opt out if they so choose. The senator from the 31st mentioned to me he thought, counties can do this with zoning. That may be true, but this would also be a political thing where you could go back to your communities and say you made sure that they had the option to opt out if they do not want to allow alkaline hydrolysis or to be in their areas. So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate members listening. I hope they will adopt these amendments, and I will yield for any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we've got a couple of amendments. Mr. Secretary, please read the amendments.
Amendment number 1 by Senator Henson offers the following amendment. Amend Senate Bill 296 by inserting between definition and to provide on line 4 the following: to clarify license requirements for crematories. By deleting line 32 and inserting in lieu thereof the following: body and retort, by revising subsections A and E as follows. By deleting the quotation mark at the end of line 48 and inserting between lines 48 and 49 the following: 2A, the provisions of subparagraphs A, B, and F of paragraph 1 of this subsection shall not apply to crematories which provide cremation services only to other funeral establishments. The provision of subparagraph G of paragraph 1 of the subsection shall only apply to any standalone crematory that was not in operation as of July 1st, 2009, and to any crematory that is not a standalone crematory. Amendment 1A by Senator Henson offered the following amendment. To amend Amendment 1 of Senate Bill 296 by striking July 1st, 2009 on line 15 and replacing it with July 1st, 2020. Back, please, order, Mr. President.
All right, the chair we have another amendment. Mr. Secretary, please read the amendment.
Amendment number 2, submitted by Senator Henson, offers the following amendment. Amend Senate Bill 296 by inserting between definition and to provide on line 4 the following: to provide for regulation of crematories and cremation devices by local governments, by deleting line 32 and inserting in lieu thereof the following: body and retort, by revising paragraph A1 and subsection E and adding a new subsection to read as follows: by deleting the quotes at the end of line 51 and inserting between lines 51 and 52 the following: nothing in this article shall be constructed to prohibit a county or a municipal or corporation for adopting ordinances and resolutions requiring a license for a crematory or regulating the use of cremation devices. That completes the order, Mr. President.
He wants to speak, so he's not going to come up front. He wants to pray. For what purpose does the senator from the 41st rise?
President, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the one, I think is it 1 and 1A?
1 and 1A.
That 1A simply makes sure that all crematories that are presently in funeral homes and up until July 1st will be grandfathered in. So anybody that has a crematory in a present funeral home or until July 31st will be grandfathered in. This law will not be applied to them. Only crematory after that date that go into a existing funeral home.
That's going to be up to each and every member to make their own decision. Thank you. Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st to speak to the amendments.
So we've all been cautioned about opening up a code section and getting things that you didn't intend to get. Look, very simply, what Senate Bill 296 does is straighten out the law that was not completely done in 2012 when we all thought that we were allowing the process of alkaline hydrolysis. Now, I appreciate the minority leader's intentions, trying to do good for folks. Local governments have the ability to adopt zoning ordinances, and they can zone however they want to relative to, let's say, funeral homes or other processes. So you know, I would argue that that amendment is not necessary. I haven't seen the amendments yet. The other amendment, trying to bring in new regulations relative to all crematories, all I would say is that we set out here to clarify something that has caused a problem in the industry. Now, I don't think this is a massive problem. I don't think it's either thing that we do is not a major problem, but I will just say that this was brought to me by a constituent who, doing the research and talking to the experts, was told that this funeral home could purchase the equipment to do alkaline hydrolysis and put it in and offer that service. They made that purchase. And when they went before the Funeral Services Board to get the crematory license, they said, oh, well, the law's incomplete and you can't really do this. So that's the purpose for this. I would urge you to vote against the amendments. If we want to go into another subject area and talk about licensing for crematories, that's another bill. In fact, Mr. President, you might consider whether or not that amendment is even germane, because we're not talking about crematories as a whole. We're talking about a process that is used by existing crematories. So I would urge you to vote against the amendments. This is really a very simple process, pretty clean process, and I would urge your support for the original bill, and I would ask you to vote no on the amendments. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 41st for a question.
Senator, you?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that your bill opens up to a new process or clarifies so that there's the allowable utilization of alkaline hydrolysis as a crematory device?
Well, that depends on whether you rely on Title 10 or Title 43. Title 10 allows this process. Title 43 says that if you're going to operate a crematory, you've got to have a retort. And a retort is a device that cremates the body by fire.
To go further, Senator, if you continue to yield for a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Well, as you mentioned, the individual in the industry that wants to do this checked with the board, and their interpretation was you need this law changed. Is it not true that my amendment on the 1,000 feet affects these new types of crematory?
Is that amendment number 1, 1A, or 2?
1. Basically, the 1,000 foot would apply to both freestanding as it does now and...
I don't see the wording 1,000 feet in your amendments. I'm sorry.
In 1A?
1A deals with dates. I don't see any dimensions there as far as how many feet.
Wait 1 second here. Let me. What the word "shall only" is struck, so that basically makes the previous session of 1,000 cover both instead of just freestanding. Shall apply. Okay. Yeah, to any crematory. This is affecting another part of the statute that applies to only standalone crematories. So when we insert the line prior to July 1st, 2020, and to any crematory that is not a standalone crematory, it's referring back to the 1,000-foot threshold. So, Senator, let me ask you a further question. The 1,000-foot threshold, there is presently a 1,000-foot threshold for residential usage for standalone crematoria. Is that not correct? In the statute. From residential areas. You can't have a crematory from a residential area for a standalone crematoria for 1,000 feet.
I see where you're talking about now.
Thank you.
Line 46?
Yeah. Of the underlying bill, yeah.
Mr. President, if there's no other questions, I will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th.
Mr. Chairman, would you please yield?
I would.
Mr. Chairman, isn't it true that your bill is addressing a new creation device? And what these amendments are trying to do is talking about usurping local ordinances, and it's a completely different subject matter than what you're trying to address. Is that not true in what you talked about in committee?
I believe you are correct, ma'am.
Do you yield for additional questions?
I'll yield.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th to your right.
Does the chairman yield?
Absolutely.
Has there been any study, I understand this to be a new process, has there been any studies about environmental impact of waste or disposal of these new types of conditions that we're now allowing to dispose of bodies?
Yes, there's been a lot of work done on this. It's done in a number of countries and a number of states. I can't exactly tell you how many states and how many countries, but this has been done for a long time. The process originally came about in I guess the ag industry, where you have diseased animals and you needed to dispose of those diseased animals. And so there has been a lot of research done on this. The process is you use a mixture of water and either sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide. And for those of you who are not chemists, those are very strong bases, opposite end of the pH scale from an acid. They break the body tissue down to like its original compounds. There's no DNA, there's no RNA left in the material, and it has been widely used. And we also reached out because there were some concerns in the committee when we heard this about pollution or what have you. We reached out to the EPD, and their response was they have no position on this at this point. So I take that as though they're not overly concerned about it. I will tell you that the machine itself, I mean, you raise the pH, you dissolve the body, and then that process lowers the pH, but then at the end of that process, the machine is controlled. It injects carbon dioxide to further reduce the pH to whatever level that the local sewer system needs to function properly. I'll tell you too that sodium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide are used. One of them is recognized by the FDA as a food ingredient. They are both used in the processing of food. They're also both used as a drain cleaner. When you mix a lye with fat, you get soap. That's how lye soap was made in the old days.
And I remember that, actually.
Really. And for those of you who might enjoy eating hominy, it is the process that's used to remove the husk from corn.
Does the gentleman further yield?
Absolutely.
Is there any protection for this new process as far as being a certain amount of feet from housing developments or homeowners that was originally provided in the original bill?
All the existing stuff still exists. All this Senate Bill 296 does is correct the language in Title 43 to match up with what was done in Title 10 to allow this process. And so all the same requirements for crematories apply here as does there.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Do you continue to yield?
Yes, sir. One more.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Yes, sir.
Senator, isn't it true that the current regulations for those that do cremate utilizing fire, that the air that's emitted actually is emitted as cleaner than the actual air we breathe currently?
I would assume that to be so. I know a little bit about that. I know that it is a very carefully controlled process. There's the process of cremation, and then the exhaust that comes off of that is run through another incinerator, if you will, to clean that air. There may be some dust, there may be some things in it, but this stuff that we're breathing right here is not pure either.
Senator, further yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, I've got a little experience in this, and I would submit to you that the regulation is making sure that it is actually cleaner. But the question I have for you, Senator, is it not true that there's 18 other states that currently recognize and make it legal for this process to happen?
I believe that number to be true. I will tell you that many of those sites also say that it is legal in Georgia because they read Title 10 and not Title 43. But the truth is that the people who are smart and understand this don't have an issue with it.
Thank you, Senator.
You have no additional questions.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be very quick. I wanted to speak to the process with the amendments as they come forward. I sat on the committee hearing during the hearing that we had, and it became somewhat lengthy, talking about many different things. And I sat actually next to the majority leader during that time, and I would have asked him a question about this if I had not been on the ropes. So my question would have been for him at this time was, why weren't these amendments submitted maybe at the time of the committee when it would have been much more appropriate? We could have worked these out. It gets dangerous when you begin to try to get something that may be close to the subject matter, but it is changing something entirely different. So I would, it's still early in the session, and I do think it would be appropriate for him, if he wants to make these changes, to submit a separate bill, and then we can move forward with the changes sent by the chairman who was presenting the bill. I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. For what purpose does the senator from the 31st rise?
Mr. President, I would ask for a germaneness ruling on Amendment 1 and 1A. They apply to all crematories, and this intent of this bill is to clarify the process that is already permitted under Title 10.
Senator from the 31st has asked for a germaneness ruling on Amendments 1 and 1A. Is that correct? All right. Please stand at ease for a moment. The chair is prepared to rule germaneness on amendments 1A and 1, and the chair has ruled that they are both germane. For what purpose does the senator from the 45th rise?
Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, I would like to ask also on amendment number 2, the germaneness, because we've actually gone through this process and talking about local governments, and local governments already have that ability, and there's no reason for this amendment. I'd ask for the germaneness of that.
Stand at ease while the chair rules on germaneness for amendment number 2. All right, we'll come back to order. The chair rules that amendment number 2 is germane. Is germane. Chair calls on the senator from the 31st to close debate.
I'll be brief. I would ask for your support for Senate Bill 296, and I would ask that you vote no on the amendments. Thank you very much.
For what purpose does the senator from the 14th rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent pursuant to 5-18-D to be exempt from this vote.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none, and the senator from the 14th is excused from this vote. All right, we're going to take up the amendments first. The order that we're going to go in on the amendments is 1A, then 1, then 2. The question is on the adoption of Amendment 1A by the senator from the 41st. Is there objection to adoption of the amendment? There is objection. All those in favor of Amendment 1A will vote yea. Opposed, nay. For what purpose does the senator from the 41st rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that the Amendment 1A just clarifies that everything before July 31st, 2020 would be grandfathered in? So whether you're for Amendment 1 or against it, you probably want to grandfather in anybody who's an existing.
Each and every member has a copy of the amendments on their desk, and it's up to them and their decision. All right. All those in favor of Amendment 1A will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Amendment 1A. For what purpose does the senator from the 31st rise?
Mr. President, isn't it true that 1A is actually a favorable amendment, but I would ask for a no vote on 1?
That's up to each and every senator to make on their own. On the adoption of Amendment 1A, the yeas are 46, the nays are 0, and the amendment is adopted. All right, we're going to take up Amendment number 1 now. Amendment number 1. Is there objection? There is objection. And Amendment number 1 is as amended by 1A, just for reference that. There is objection. All right, we're going to put this on the machine. There is objection. All those in favor of the adoption of Amendment 1 will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the adoption of amendment number 1 as amended, the yeas are 30, the yeas are 16, the nays are 30, and the amendment is lost. All right, we're going to take up the final amendment, amendment number 2. Is there objection to adopting amendment number 2? There is objection. All those in favor of amendment number 2 will vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. And then I'll stick. With you. On the adoption of amendment number 2, the yeas are 16, the nays are 30, and the amendment is lost. All right, is there objection or agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Put your earplug in, I'm going to bang the gavel. Thank you. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 35, the nays are 10. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Take a quick break here from the action and allow the senator from the 9th to introduce our doctor of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're a little later than normal because Dr. Watford was taking care of our colleague and sister. Is that the 34th, I believe, senator from the 34th today. So I wanted to introduce you to her. It's Dr. Latifah Watford. She serves as the Chief Behavioral Health for Kaiser Permanente of Georgia. She received her medical degree from the Morehouse School of Medicine and completed residency training fellowships in pediatrics and general psychiatry, as well as a fellowship in child and adolescent development at Indiana University. She also completed a forensic psychiatry fellowship at Emory University. As a general child and adolescent and forensic psychiatrist, she works diligently to ensure her patients receive the care they need in a respectful, caring, and clinically competent manner. And the great news is since a lot of us, many of us, I wouldn't say most, often act like children, if you need to talk to somebody, today would be a wonderful day to go down and talk to the nurse station. So, colleagues, Dr. Latifah Watford.
Good morning, and thank you so much for the very warm welcome. Thank you so much for the opportunity again and the honor to serve as Doctor of the Day. I truly appreciate and enjoy the opportunity to come and serve as Doctor of the Day to our representatives here. It's also a privilege to serve the people of Georgia as the member of the Southeast Permanente Medical Group. While some of you may not be familiar with our practice, we are the largest physician-owned, physician-led medical group in Atlanta. I and the over 800 other members of our group work with you, not an insurance company, to deliver the care that you all deserve and need. That has been our model for more than 70 years, and I'm proud to be a part of that model. I am a practicing psychiatrist at the Kaiser Permanente location in in Gwinnett County in Duluth, off of Steve Reynolds, so if anybody ever needs Kaiser care, come on by, we're there for you. I am one of the 40 specialists represented by our physician-led group that are all available in one of our 26 offices located around the metro area to serve the care needs of our Kaiser Permanente members. That number includes almost 40,000 state of Georgia employees and their dependents. We are also now honored to serve almost 2,000 of our retired military service members and their families through our TRICARE program. Although I was not born and raised here in Georgia, I was mentioning to one of the senators I was speaking with, I have graduated from medical school, I got married here, and I also delivered a child here in Georgia. So I think I have now earned the right to say that I am a Georgian, and I truly am honored to claim this state as my home now. And I also want to give much due respect to everyone sitting in this room. I appreciate the hard work that got you to this place and the hard work and due diligence you do to serve the representatives of all your different areas. We truly appreciate your work and your diligence to make sure our needs are met as your representative people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for taking good care of me. All right, we're back on to the rules calendar. At this point, I'd like the Secretary to read the caption to Senate Resolution 554.
Senate Resolution Number 554, a resolution supporting the rights of the people of Iran to protest the hostile actions of the Iranian regime without subjection to violent retaliation or retribution from their government, and the efforts of the Iranian people to bring effective democracy to their nation and for other purposes. Mr. President, on January 28, 2020, the Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this resolution do pass, respectively submitted by Senator Mullis, Chair. Senator Karen Shack of the 48th offered the following amendment number 1 to amend Senate Resolution 554 by striking lines 14 through 17. That completes the order, Mr. President.
This time, the chair would like to recognize the senator from the 45th to speak to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I bring before you Senate Resolution 554, which supports the efforts of the Iranian people
and their right to protest the hostile actions of the Iranian regime without retaliation or retribution from their own government. And while we're talking about this, I also want to talk about the sham impeachment and the process that we're going through with President Donald Trump. I think we need to return to work. America is thriving under his administration, and I want to take a moment to recognize the success of President Trump's remarkable leadership, and the liberal Democrats have conveniently, just as they've conveniently ignored this protest during the witch hunt that they have been proceeding with. One of the things that the president has worked on so diligently is unleashing the American economy. And Georgia is a perfect example, as we're the #1 state in the nation to do business for the past 6 years. 7.3 million new jobs since Trump took office. We're at a 50-year record low of the unemployment rate of 3.5%, and most importantly, 3.2% among women. And that is very, very important. We've eliminated 22 regulations for every new regulatory action. We have a record high stock market. We are defending our country. The president has defended our country, securing our border, and more importantly, he is strengthening our military. $1.5 trillion in defense funding, largest troop pay increase since 2010, and modernizing our forces. But more importantly, we have been appointing judges that defend our Constitution. A record 191 federal judges appointed and put on the bench, including 2, not 1, but 2 U.S. Supreme Court justices. We have been unafraid to act as a leader with the president's leadership in the free world. We have completed USMCA. We're getting tough with China. We're eliminating terrorists. Look at Baghdad. Look at ISIS. Look at Soleimani. Look at Iran and what we're doing. We've recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and relocated the U.S. Embassy accordingly. President Trump has delivered. He's delivered on the promises he made in 2016, and America is great again, and the people have taken notice. This terrifies, and this is exactly why I wrote this resolution. This terrifies Nancy Pelosi and the Washington Democrats. The majority of Georgians do not support the efforts of Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff to remove our president from office. And I look forward to working tirelessly in the coming months to ensure President Trump wins not only my county, Gwinnett County, but the great state of Georgia. And we continue on that path of being the best state in the nation to do business. We look forward to the 2020 election, and I'll be glad to address the amendment as it comes forward. Thank you, and I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. The chair recognizes the senator from the 48th to speak to her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to offer Amendment 1, which would strike the offensive false language accusing the Speaker of the United States House, among others, of complicity in the atrocities of the Iranian regime. That is to strike lines 14 through 17. Make no mistake, I stand with the Iranian people in a way that I don't think you all understand or would ever be able to understand. My father made the courageous decision to leave Iran many years ago, a decision that allowed my brothers and myself to be born in this country, to be American. and to give us a chance at a life in this country that would never have been possible in the country of his birth. I am proud to have worked to repay this nation for that chance. Before ever serving in this body, I graduated from the United States Air Force Academy in the 10th class of women. I served as an intelligence officer during the first Gulf War, and I served as an assistant United States attorney here in Atlanta, prosecuting serious crime, from human trafficking to illegal gun running. I have already lived my father's American dream, but I am not done paying off the debt of this nation's acceptance of and investment in my family. So I continue to work for the people of this great state and this country, and to let the record reflect that in my generation, between my husband and I, there are 9 children. 7 of us are veterans. 3 are West Point graduates, and I am an Air Force Academy graduate, and we have Bronze Star and also 100% disabled veterans. We take this country very seriously. In bringing this amendment, I am asking each and every one of you to stop and consider the attack in lines 14 through 17 and what it says about how we see this Senate and the honor our constituents have given us by sending us here. Are we here to work for the benefit of Georgians, or are we here to use the Senate to take cheap political shots? Everyone here knows the senator from the 45th, and I am running for the same seat in Congress. And as I just said, my late father immigrated here to give his children the chance and the change offered by the American dream. It is not hard to see that the language in my amendment would strike what is beneath the dignity of this body. I sincerely hope this Senate is unwilling to give its approval to language that falsely accuses our fellow Americans serving in Congress of complicity in the atrocities of the Iranian regime, including brutal repression of women, violence against protesters, and attacks against members of our armed forces. And let me be clear, I stand with our military, absolutely. If this amendment fails, this body will be voting not on a statement of support to Iranians, but a campaign stunt by Renee Unterman, the senator from the 45th, that cheapens the words of our Senate. It should insult each and every one of you who looks at a colleague in the opposing party and still sees someone who loves this nation. And I submit to you that there are people across the aisle who I know love this country and who are veterans who have fought and put their lives on the line for this country. I urge you to put country over party by adopting Amendment 1. Thank you. I yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. Chair recognizes the senator from the 6th to speak to the bill, to the resolution and the amendment. Senator, it's in the book.
It's in the book.
The secretary's told me. Thank you.
So I rise today not necessarily to give an impassioned speech, but really more to talk about facts. And I just want to make sure that the record is clear here and with respect to the senator from the 48th amendment and why it's appropriate. There is currently a bipartisan resolution, House Resolution 752, filed by Democratic Congressman Ted Deutsch, supporting the Iranian people's legitimate protest against the oppressive Iranian government. And it was filed specifically because Congress, Republicans and Democrats alike, want to see the aspirations of the people of Iran realized. So I hope you'll support the amendment, if for no other reason then it's factually correct. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to be not in favor of Amendment Number 1 from the senator from the 48th. And I find it really interesting that this is called a political stunt, and I have no respect for this institution. When I have been in this institution since 1998 and been a part of the Georgia State Senate since 2002, and I think it's just a shame that her party is doing the same thing that they do in Washington, D.C. Now imagine that. Imagine that. I guess she gets her learning and her learning curve and her talking points coming from D.C. And I just think that that's a shame from someone who has been in here so long and someone who has been in here for a year. So rather than recognize the support and support those protesters, and the reason I interjected the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, into this debate and into this argument is because I literally watched her go on TV. And when she was on TV with a news announcer asking her questions about these protesters, never could the words come out of her mouth where she felt support for those people who were literally in the streets willing to die for democracy. But those words about freedom and democracy could never come out of her mouth. And instead, she said, well, there's many reasons why people are in the street protesting. Now, these are people that are willing to die and go on the mat for democracy. And instead of the senator from the 48th getting up here and also defending those freedom seekers, no, she's attacking me instead. She can't even have a logical debate about what the resolution is about. So I got real problems with that. I got real problems with that.
Senator, please suspend. I would ask that we all stay away from any sort of personally impugning any senator's motives.
Let me just close out. Nancy Pelosi exhibited very, very poor leadership, just as she did in the impeachment proceedings. There's a reason why she delayed over the Christmas and New Year's holidays and did not send that to the Senate, because she wanted to drag out the hearings and get closer to an election process and feed the media that's already biased against the president. You know, I hate to bring this stuff up too, but it's reality. It's reality. It affects the state of Georgia. It affects 11 million Georgians. And yes, somebody has to have the courage to bring it here to this podium and talk about it. And anywhere you are in the world, if you are a freedom seeker, if you are seeking democracy, if you want to demonstrate in the streets, we're going to be there right beside you. So with that, Mr. President, welcome to the Senate. Welcome to the preview. There's more to come, and I appreciate y'all's indulgence. I ask you to vote no on that amendment number 1. Thank you very much.
Senator from the 45th has closed debate. For what purpose does Senator from the 48th rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Will I be able to speak to the resolution if the amendment fails?
Debate has been closed.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you. All right, we're going to take up amendment number 1. We're going to first take up amendment number 1, and then we'll vote on the resolution. Is there objection to adopting amendment number 1? There is objection. There is objection. All those in favor of the amendment will vote yea. Opposed to the amendment will vote nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 45th rise?
Mr. President, is it not true that I asked for a red vote on amendment number 1? Please vote no.
For what purpose does the senator from the 48th rise?
Isn't it true that all the comments made by the senator for the 48th relate to what is going on to impeachment and not about the Iranian people?
It's for each and every member to make that decision on their own.
And I further urge a vote of yes for the amendment to be putting your party over politics. Thank you.
On the adoption of the amendment, the yeas are 17, the nays are 29, and this amendment is lost. All right, now we will take up the resolution. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is now on the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor of the resolution will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 48th rise?
I rise to implore my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to...
Is this a parliamentary inquiry?
Isn't it true that I am against adoption of this because we need to put our country over our party?
Thank you, Senator, for your passion. For what purpose does the senator from the 28th rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that our U.S. House should take that same advice?
Once again, each and every member to make that decision. On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 31, the nays are 17, and the resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. For what purpose does the senator from the 8th rise?
Mr. President, I move the Senate agree to House substitute to Senate Bill 117 as amended by the Senate.
Ms. Secretary, will you read the caption to Senate Bill 117?
Senate Bill 117, a bill to be titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 20 of Title 47 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions of the Public Retirement System Standards Law so as to prohibit the passage of any law, rule, regulation, resolution, or ordinance that allows for creditable service in a retirement system that does not require an individual to pay the full actuarial cost of obtaining such creditable service, to provide for the amendment of existing laws, to provide for an exception, to provide for optional payment plans for accreditable service, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes the senator. Secretary, continue to read. Read the amendment, please.
Mr. President, Senator Black offers the following amendment to the House substitute to Senate Bill 117 by striking lines 1 through 322 and inserting in lieu thereof the following. A bill to be titled an act to amend Title 47 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to retirement and pensions so as to prohibit the passage of any law, rule, or regulation that allows for credible service in a retirement system that does not require an individual to pay the full actuarial cost of obtaining such credible service and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 8th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 117 is a bill we passed last year that required people that are buying in under some old statutes where they can buy into our retirement system for credible service at less than full actuarial cost. The House got that bill, and they put an amendment on it and make it effective only to new employees, which would postpone any benefit for basically 30 years. They raised some legal questions in consultation with our legal counsel, and Regina Quick and the Lieutenant Governor's office, we're comfortable that we're on good, sound legal grounds. However, I did go back and amend it to allow these people that now currently have that right to buy in on some of these sweetheart deals, to give them 5 years to exercise their right. After 5 years, then they'll have to pay full actuarial costs. I'll entertain any questions.
You have no questions, Senator. Ready? Any additional questions on the motion? Chair sees none. Senator from the 8th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 117 as amended by the Senate. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 48, the nays are 0, and the motion has passed. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader.
I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 o'clock on Tuesday, February 4th, 2020.
Mr. Secretary, will you read the announcements?
Rules will meet upon adjournment in 4:50 cap. Finance will meet in Mez 1 at 1 p.m. Insurance and Labor will meet in 310 CLOB at 1 p.m. Education and Youth is canceled. Public Safety is canceled. Health and Human Services is canceled. And Judiciary will meet in 307 CLOB at 4 p.m. That completes the order, Mr.
Any
President.
senators have an announcement to make? Chair sees none. The Majority Leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Tuesday, January 15th, 2020 at 10 a.m. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it, and the Senate stands adjourned.